Do it.
All right. So welcome back, everyone, to another exciting episode of Welcome to My Pep Talk. Today we have a very special guest, my close friend and honestly brother from another mother, Ronnie. So if you want to give the people a little bit of an introduction of who you are.
Hello, friends. My name is Ronnie. We're actually at the facility that I work at here at OEB Fitness, and I am a wanderlust, some might say, a free spirit.
Could not agree more. A life enthusiast, as you say.
Exactly. Self-proclaimed at Ronnie Round on Instagram. You can find me there.
So today I want to pick your brain a little bit about fear. I want to do a deep dive on what fear means to us as a species and how while it may have started as a kind of intrinsic survival mechanism, now it's kind of taken over how we can approach new challenges or anything that we want to approach in life, basically. So yeah, I mean, I basically want to start with that. I want to talk a little bit about how, like, fear initially began because when you're like in the Stone Ages, right, and you're like about to be attacked by a fucking tiger or something, you obviously need that anxiety to be able to get yourself moving. So there is a place and a time that fear very much like had an influence in our survival. So the thing is, though, I feel like nowadays evolutionary fear has no longer really a place in our modern society. Like the same level of fear persists, but it hinders our ability to achieve and even pursue things that we might want to. Brad, do you? I feel like you have experience in that too.
Everything that we used to, as like back as time goes for humans, we don't have any of the issues that the cavemen have to use to worry about. Like,
exactly.
We have our food on standby. We have a shelter overhead. We have all the protection that we need, but we do still have that survival instinct of fear to help us.
Exactly. And I feel like this kind of exhibits itself in quite a few forms. So like there's the biggest ones that I found for myself when I was doing a bit of self-examination is obviously the big one is fear of failure. There's fear of rejection, fear of the unknown, fear of change, but all of these prevent us from really accessing like what life's true potential.
Absolutely.
And I feel like you're probably one of the best to talk about this because you constantly exhibit that you're pushing past your fear of failure or your fear of judgment, let's say.
Absolutely.
And I want you actually to talk a little bit about your daily series that you're doing right now because that I feel like this goes exactly into that topic.
So a couple weeks ago I started this little challenge for myself. Basically every single day I try to do something that would kind of challenge my comfortability. So I'm trying to exit my comfort zone, doing something small or big. It doesn't really matter what it is. One example that I did was like playing in the rain, or I took myself on an ice cream date yesterday.
Which was amazing, right? Bro. That honestly, like, I feel like the more people see it, the more we normalize it,
Absolutely.
right? I feel like that's the big thing. Everybody has this confinement in their own heads where they feel like they're alone, they're isolated, right? But the more people can see others actually playing outside their comfort zone, it really brings out the best of us,
Absolutely.
right?
We forget sometimes that all the lives around us are human as well, and we all feel similar emotions. They may not be the same, but we all have stuff that we worry about as well. And we make all these kind of like preconceived notions that someone may judge us for how we, how they might judge us, or how they see us for what we are. But I think,
man, isn't that crazy? I feel like even from my own experience, right? Like I was a very, very anxious like child growing up. I was constantly judged. My biggest thing was I felt like I wanted to be accepted by everybody. Like the second I felt like I wasn't appealing or I don't know, kind of molding into the person that other one wanted me to be, I was so scared of the feeling of isolation and rejection. But I literally feel like if you just let that go, your personal connections grow immensely. Like I feel like I have the deepest connections with the most genuine people nowadays because I have let go of this fear of, what if someone doesn't like me for who I am?
Yeah, one of the biggest messages that I share is to be unapologetically you at any given moment, right? The energy that you kind of show to the world is the energy that you're going to get in return. So if you're being anyone other than yourself,
man, yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
If you're being anybody other than yourself, you're going to attract people that won't be on the same frequency level as you.
And that's what I found too, is like when I was trying to be everybody's friend, I also felt almost isolated by myself, right? Because I felt like I wasn't staying true to myself. And this is something I talked about in the last episode of the podcast about how you need to be authentic to really attract the people that add value to your life, that you really want to build and grow like a relationship with. And again, fear is, at least in my case, like fear, even in terms of like relationship with girls in my case, like I was worried about letting someone in to truly see who I was, and that led me to not being true to myself, and that obviously led to a lot of discomfort, internal turmoil, and
Absolutely.
like, have you also experienced anything like
I would
this?
say a very common example for, I feel like anybody maybe watching this podcast may kind of relate to, is like, you go out every Saturday night and you don't really truly enjoy what you're doing. You're not really surrounding yourself with the energy that you truly kind of match with, and it's like you do the same thing repeatedly because you want to fit in with the crowd, and you do it week after week, and you kind of wonder, like, why do I not get any fulfillment from the things that I do?
Exactly,
You know,
exactly.
and it's like you're not matching the same frequency with the persons that you're surrounding yourself with.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole different like rabbit hole that we can go down to about like how I mean, obviously there's a time and place to go out and you know, experience that kind of thing, but it is deep down, it truly is the lowest form of quality time, let's say, that you could be spending with yourself, with people around you. It really isn't setting yourself up to build lasting memories and stuff that will actually truly like lead to your growth.
Yeah.
Right. So I kind of want to pivot a little bit into something that I feel like a lot of us also deal with, and I think this is the more I can look back retrospectively into my childhood, this is a lot of the fear of regret.
Yes.
So I feel like this is something that everybody battles with, and the more open we can be, I feel like the more we can all heal. But personally, I really look back and regret the times that I let fear control my life. There's so many opportunities that I really felt like I let go because I was too scared. And I don't know, I mean, I feel like there are even opportunities that could have really positively changed my life, I feel like I let slide by because I was too scared of whatever, you know, of isolation, rejection, that kind of thing. And have you experienced anything?
Absolutely. I would say, like, our biggest regrets in life are going to be the things that we let slip by. And I've had so many examples of that personally. I've wanted to live, maybe, for an example for myself personally, I wanted to live out west for years, like back 2017. And I moved there in 2021, but it took me 4 years. That I don't even remember anymore because I was so obsessed with wanting to get out there. But I was scared of, like, would I make it out there? What are people going to think about me when I'm out there? You know, like, there were so many question marks, and it took me 4 years to finally make the jump.
Of course.
And when I did, that was the best decision I've ever made. But it was 4 years of that built up.
Almost too late, yeah. Well, not too late, but I know what you mean. Like, it feels like lost time.
Exactly.
And man, I feel like that is probably the biggest thing. There is never a right time to start anything. You just need to commit, right?
There's
like
no better time than right now.
Exactly.
We don't realize that.
Exactly. Even for this podcast, man, this is the first one that I'm doing with another person.
I ain't never been on a podcast.
Exactly. We just said throw it together. Why not? And we'll figure it out as we go. And that has come with an acceptance that, you know what, I embrace the fear that I'm experiencing, the anxiety and stress, let's say, about making this work, but I have faith in my own ability and like the energy around me that we can get this done.
Vulnerability is such an important thing that we have to develop as humans, I think. Right? Vulnerability is obviously it's a vulnerable position to be in, and it's scary. It is, but that's where you find all of your growth. On the other side of discomfort, we shy away from it. We're scared of so many different things, but when we try to, like, really push that boundary, we try to cross that line, we start to realize that's where all of our growth is.
Exactly. Life truly does begin outside of our comfort zone. That is a motto or a statement that I live by. If anybody knows Yes Theory or Seek Discomfort, they'll have heard that before, and I honestly live by it as well. But there is such a benefit from actually overcoming your fears. It allows you to really experiment with who you want to be, what kind of life you want to lead, and where you want to go, and like personally and financially or professionally, academically, you know, whatever that kind of thing is. I did want to ask you actually, so has there been, like, what was the trajectory that led you to where you are now? Like, was there coaching before, or was there like another goal and then something else came in the way, or like how have you gotten to this point having built such a strong like self-identity, let's say?
We could take a couple steps back and kind of like talk. I'm going to talk a little bit about my childhood. Not going to dive too much deep into it, but it's kind of like how it all started. For me as a kid growing up, I have a little bit of a health condition that I don't really talk about very often, but it kind of hindered my ability to live the life that I wanted to as a kid. I was kind of like a bubble wrap kid, honestly. So I wasn't allowed to go outside and play with the other kids.
Really?
I wasn't allowed to play sports growing up.
Okay.
Family doctor kind of demanded these things out of me and my family. And then I ended up graduating high school, and I said, why have I let this person kind of like dictate the direction of my life? Went to college for fitness and health promotion, ended up being like in the coaching industry now for 5-6 years.
Wow,
right?
it's been a while, eh? And you're thriving too. Like everybody here, I feel like because you have such a strong like self-identity, you know the energy and value that you bring to this place. Like it's so awesome to see everybody even talk about how how you are probably one of the best coaches here, and they truly feel like their lives have been positively impacted by having you in it.
Absolutely.
You know, and I feel, again, vulnerability, that all comes from being open with everybody that you deal with.
Yeah, if you're shying away from who you are like internally, you're also not being able to fully project who you are to other people, right? If you're not truly comfortable in your own skin, it's really hard to be someone that can like make an impact as well.
Of course, yeah. I mean, that's for myself too, right? Like for anybody that's like a recurring viewer, my goal is or my career path is in environmental and chemical engineering, and I truly want to leave a meaningful impact on the world before I die. But that's my number one goal, is I'm gonna change the world, even if it's to a minute amount. I want to change the world for the better before I leave, and that is a very scary concept, because I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how I'm going to get there. Yeah. I know that I need to be way better than I am now at what I'm doing, and even the thought of that is like nerve-wracking, you know.
The unknown is such a beautiful thing when you start to change your perspective, right?
Exactly.
The thing is, like, we don't know kind of like what is gonna truly make us happy one day. We really don't know. All we can really relate back to are the things that we already know, and the things that have made us uncomfortable in the past, and we kind of make assumptions about what can make us happy when we truly don't know.
Exactly. I think, okay, taking a step back, and even in my like life, where leading to where I am right now. I was studying actually, we'll take a step further back. When I finished high school living in Athens, I took the leap to travel to another country, to go to the Netherlands, again, on a whim, because I wanted to thrust myself into that unknown, because I know that it's the best place to learn and grow from. Absolutely. And even that first step, I felt like I matured far beyond my own years, and I really felt like it positively contributed to how I hold myself, my self-image even too, because I started building this idea of like, man, I just threw myself into another country, and like, I'm killing it.
And you survived.
Exactly. Right? You survive, and not only did you survive, you thrived. Exactly. And then we took the step again. Like when I was in my third year of undergrad, and I had the opportunity to do an internship abroad. Let's go all the way across the world, man. Let's come over to Canada and see how life is like on this side of the pond.
And here we are.
And
right?
we're thriving.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I feel like there's so much fear of like, what if? But man, what if it goes well?
Absolutely.
Right?
Like take a step back from all the greatest things that ever happened to you in your life. The steps kind of that bring you to that point were not comfortable.
Not at all, man. Not at all. And again, I touched on this even in the last one too, but like, man, the times where you're the busiest, where you're like the most out of control, those, at least in my opinion, are the times that you feel the most fulfilled, the happiest, because you're like, holy crap, I'm all over the place, I have no idea what's going on, but I'm making this happen somehow. Yeah. And like that, to me, at least as a very type A kind of productive go kind of person, that brings me true joy.
Absolutely.
You know, and I feel like you can relate to that very much too.
You really can't control the things that happen to you, but what you can control is your emotions towards what happened to you.
Exactly.
Right? You can plan A to B, A to Z, but like, we can't really control what happens.
Of course,
it just happens as it does.
Yeah, right? that honestly opens up a completely different conversation too, about like our perception and reception to information, and then feedback out in the world. Because I feel like, again, if you can keep an open mind and a very positive mindset around, guys, no matter what happens, I'm gonna be fine, right? There's nothing that I can't handle that's gonna throw itself my way. Like, you can even take it like a step further if you want to say it like in a spiritual sense, that if I wasn't able to handle it, it wouldn't have presented itself now. And I know a lot of people kind of resonate with that, but even if you just want to take it from a different step, just you can convince yourself that you can handle it, because you can. It really is under your control.
Yeah.
No, I truly also think that like this ties into the next point, which I wanted to dive into a little bit, which is learning from failure.
Oh my God.
Which is huge.
Oh my God.
Huge.
That's the only way you can learn, right?
Exactly.
There's no mistakes. There's only learning kind of experiences, if you actually perceive it that way.
Exactly. That's the big thing, is like, I once again would not be in the position that I am, like in the field that I'm studying, if I didn't learn from my failures. Going into engineering, man, my undergrad was barely even covering the same like topics, but I just said, okay, let's take the plunge, why not? And like, I'll learn from each iteration. And every time that I would mess up, I would just take a step back and say, okay, given the situation, why did I mess up? What actually could I have done differently to then modify my approach, like for the later kind of trial, let's say?
We like to think that like, the wrong things that happen to us is just like, why is the world attacking me? But we have to remember that everything that happens to you is also a result of your doings. Like,
Exactly.
take a step back for everything that bad that happened to you. Maybe not everything, but like most things that went wrong in your life, there are things that you could have done to prevent it, right? There are things that you could have done to maybe combat or perceived it differently. But it's easier to kind of think like the world's out to get me.
Yeah, but I honestly truly feel like if you can shift your perspective on failure, it really unlocks, like, the world becomes your oyster. Like, if you look at, so I listened to a podcast recently where I forget who the guest speaker was, but she was mentioning how, like, if you look at failure as, oh, that's just one more stop on the bus ride, let's say, to my goal.
Yeah.
So if you look at it as like, oh, I failed again, okay, I'm just one step closer right now. And I failed again, I'm just one step closer again.
Every obstacle that you come across is meant to shape you to be the person that you need to be to get to your end goal.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
Like,
yeah.
a common analogy that I like to use, like, if you gave maybe someone that wasn't financially responsible $1 million, they'd probably fly right through it. They don't have the background knowledge to kind of make that money stretch or to multiply it.
Yeah.
You gave it to a businessman. They could double it tomorrow.
Exactly.
Right? Because they have the tools. You can teach a man how to fish, right?
Yeah. Oh man, I know. But yeah, I do think that along with the fear of failure, though, it's like you can also teach yourself a lot of resilience through this kind of thing as well. Like, the more times you fail and the more comfortable you are in that failure, as having shifted it into a learning experience and not like a feeling of like degradation a little bit.
Yes.
It also just strengthens you, right?
Absolutely.
Like, again, I feel like the more times you've said that you've gone through it, you're also building proof to yourself that you can actually handle whatever is thrown your way.
Exactly.
And I feel like that's probably one of the biggest things that you can do in terms of like advancing your professional career too, right? Because like if you're trying to really make something of yourself and you're really trying to be out there and make an impact, then you're gonna fail. Like, that's just, it's part of it, you know, it's inevitable.
You have to.
Yeah, but if you can toughen your skin and say like, I love this, you know, I'm looking forward to the next failure because
Yes.
I can't wait to see how much I improve for the next one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I guess something that we could relate to, both of us, in this gym specifically, like any movement that we learned in CrossFit. So we're in a CrossFit gym, guys. So sorry for those that are against CrossFit, but like gymnastics or like Olympic weightlifting, moves that are so tactical, and we're going to fail time after time. You can be weightlifting, playing with the barbell for 20 years in a row, and you can still make a mistake. But when you look at these little errors more as like, okay, this is something that I can work on for my next rep, opposed to like, oh man.
Yeah, getting like frustrated with yourself.
Like you see
and
people
not
kind of miss a lift here, and you're like, oh, like not here specifically,
Yeah.
but maybe on like kicking a
No,
barbell.
everybody here has the perfect mindset for
Yes,
it. I truly feel like, I mean, for anybody that isn't in London, Ontario, you won't understand, you won't get it. But OEV is the place, man. Everybody is so supportive and constructive with the feedback they provide, and just like the training mentality here. And it's something that I wish everybody could apply elsewhere in their lives too.
There's a lot of a growth mindset in this building here specifically, and for me, myself as a coach, I really like to instill that missing reps or failing a lift or anything like that it's not a bad thing.
Not at all, yeah.
It's not. That fear of trying a certain weight because you're scared you're going to miss it or how it might turn out. But what if it turns out even better than you ever could have imagined?
Exactly.
Right? What if you make the lift? What if
Exactly.
you do the muscle up? You know, what if you do the handstand walk?
Yeah.
Right? You get over that fear of failure.
Yeah.
And then everything else starts to blossom.
Exactly. And life is good, guys.
Yeah,
life is good.
Life is freaking great, guys. Life is
Okay,
great.
so in that case, I want to transition to the last thing, which I really want to touch on a little bit, because we've talked a lot about theory, about how like personal anecdotes of how fear has influenced our lives and, you know, where it's taken us and how we've gotten here. But I want to talk a little bit about steps that people can take practically to actually overcome their fear.
Yes.
So before I start, I want to ask you, from your own personal experience, like how have you gotten to move outside your comfort zone?
For myself personally, I just kind of like dove right in, but like I guess we're gonna relate back to my Ronny's journal kind of little adventure. I'm not consistently pushing my comfort zone. I realize that like it's not something that it's hard to like get back into a routine sometimes. So when I started this challenge a couple weeks ago, it was to add those like little micro like okay, I'm gonna start off with like going to breakfast on my own, right?
Of course, yeah.
It's a little uncomfortable, but it's enough that I can tolerate.
Exactly.
And then you realize, oh, I survived that, right? And then tomorrow I'm gonna go
Do
play
a little
in the
more,
rain.
exactly,
And
yeah.
then I'm gonna go do something a little more extreme.
Yeah.
But you have to start. I think personally that you need to start lightly with yourself. Be kind. Maybe start with like little, like what's the word that you used?
Like micro exposures.
Micro exposure.
Yeah,
That's
so
the
just basically, I mean, that's for in layman's terms, it's just pushing yourself just that little touch, you know, like getting yourself kind of accustomed to that feeling of stress, and
Dip
then
your toes in the water.
and then realizing that, you know what, hey, I survived. I didn't get my toes bitten off, you know, I'm good, I'm still here. And that could be in terms of like anything. Like if I'm being very open, before I came to Canada, actually, I had probably some of the worst social anxiety of anybody that I knew, especially in terms of approaching females. That's a big no-no. I was terrified.
Ugh,
Exactly.
women.
Yeah, exactly. But okay, I will kind of attribute this to the fact that I was able to almost reinvent myself when I came here again. But it was just that, like, I took the step, I talked to a few people, and it wasn't under the perception of like, I want to try and like date you, let's say. It was just, let me just have a conversation with another human being. And seeing the positive feedback to that, or just trying to talk to like a stranger, like on a bus, you know, just the smallest things, the smallest little like ounces of, okay, I'm just gonna say hi, and that's it, you know? And like that really conditioned me to feel like, okay, guys, everybody, think about, you can think of it from the reverse too. Like, imagine if you were standing on the bus and someone started a conversation with you. At least for myself, like, I would really like that. I like conversing with other people. Like, I find that it's really fun, you know, and it almost makes you feel kind of special that, you know, someone was like, oh, you want to talk to me?
I can borrow some of your time.
Exactly.
We can exchange energy.
Exactly. So like that kind of thing really, it just really changed my entire perception on socializing with people. And I hope that can be a bit of an example, is like how you can just dip your toes, like we said, just kind of expose yourself a little bit to really like achieve anything you want, honestly.
It can be big, it can be small. It's probably easier to start off a little bit smaller, but
absolutely. No, so that's basically what we kind of want to discuss a little bit. I just wanted to highlight a few of the points. Is just, I feel like you really do have to accept that being open with fear means being vulnerable with yourself, with the people around you, and obviously this means that you need to construct a group of people that really support you. You know, you need to feel comfortable with those around you before you can actually embark on that journey of being vulnerable.
Absolutely. And I kind of talked about this in my video that I posted yesterday. I talked about how if you change your perception of how someone may receive you, right? Let's say like you and I weren't friends. I didn't know I'm judging you hard right now, right? But you could look at me and say, well, if this person doesn't like me for who I am, why do I even have to give this person any of my energy? Like, why does this person hold any weight, right? And when you kind of look at it like, if I'm myself, I can also attract like-minded energy, right? And those that deserve to be in my life will stay there, and those that aren't, I shouldn't even have to worry about that.
There is one thing, one more point on that I kind of wanted to touch on, which, so I kind of use this almost as a, how would you say this? Almost as like a selfish mindset of this is like, if someone is trying to talk to me, or if someone is judging the way that I'm sitting or I'm doing something, why in the world would I let them have control over me?
Yes.
Like that would get me so fired up in all terms of like, even if it's like work or something, but like, am I really gonna let some other person that's not even worth my time dictate how I feel and how my emotions are in this moment and throughout the day? Absolutely not. Screw that.
Anything, it's more a reflection of their character than it is
exactly
mine.
There you go. Right? Exactly. So again, I hope that this talk was able to kind of shift your perspective on how you can really let go of the fears that might be holding you back in terms of relationships or academia or professional settings or anything like that, because there really is nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All of the biggest things that kind of, I would say, were major turning points in my life were definitely also like the hardest to be in because they were the most uncomfortable. But reflecting back now, those where I learned the most about myself, that's where I made the truest friends, that's where I had the greatest experiences. So I know it's going to be uncomfortable for a lot of us to kind of leave that comfort zone, but it's meant to be. It's not meant to be easy.
Of course, yeah. So I hope everyone can take the opportunity to really reflect on their own fears, reflect on their own past regrets, let's say, and maybe let that fuel you. Say, like, I don't want to be full of those regrets 10 years from now. Let me just take that step into the unknown and see where life takes you. I guarantee you it's going to be for the better and not for the worse.
There's never going to be a good time.
Exactly.
Right? You just got to go for it.
Exactly. So yeah, guys, thank you very much. Ronnie, I love you, brother. Thank you so much for your time, for your expertise, for just sharing your energy with me. This was amazing. So
thank you for having me, brother.
Yeah, of course.
What an honor.
Thank you, guys. I hope everyone enjoyed. Please like, share, favorite, the whole shebang, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.